This is video 3 of our Getting Started module. In this video, we will look at the daily, weekly, and monthly flow of storytime. Rhythm is intentionally built into every aspect of storytime because we believe that it deeply nourishes children. Even when the outside world can feel uncertain and chaotic, we want storytime to be predictable, consistent, and nourishing. One of the ways we do this is to follow a daily, weekly, and monthly rhythm. Let's look at those now. There are actually many daily rhythms built into storytime. Each episode itself follows a larger rhythm, and then there's individual rhythms within that. Let me give you a better idea here. First of all, each episode begins with an opening poem and a welcome, and it ends with a closing poem and a goodbye. We always start each day with an opening and a closing. Then, between the opening and closing, storytime is divided into two main parts, a circle time and a story time. We follow the same rhythm each day. We have an opening, then we have circle time, then we have story time and the closing. In the days when we have a craft visit or a field trip, those always occur between circle time and story time. You'll notice within these larger moments that there are other rhythms. We start and end each circle time with the same opening poem and closing poem. Our story time starts and ends with the lighting and the snuffing of a candle. Even the lighting of a candle has its own rhythm. The more you watch storytime, the more you'll see these different layers and how they work together. So within this daily rhythm, or I should say that the daily rhythm is within a weekly rhythm. The weekly rhythm also follows a predictable flow. So you can come to expect the same things to happen on the same day of the week, each week. Here's how that works. On Mondays, on every Monday, we practice our mindful breathing exercise. When we have our craft visits with Miss Ray, those happen on Tuesdays. Every Wednesday, we are outside for story time, and we also go on a field trip. Other parts of our weekly rhythm have to do with our storytelling. On Mondays and Tuesdays, we hear the story from Miss Becca, that's me, as I tell the story from my rocking chair. And on Thursdays and Fridays, we have a puppet show. Maybe you're starting to get an idea of how the daily rhythm fits into the weekly rhythm. We follow the same rhythm each day. And then some days of the week, the different parts of our rhythm have their own rhythm. In this part here, on Tuesdays is when we have our craft visit. On Wednesdays, this is when we go on our field trip. But those things always happen right here, nestled between circle time and story time. And while our weekly rhythm is happening, there is also a monthly rhythm. Each new month of story time brings a new circle time. As the month goes on, we learn new verses and lines to our songs and our stories. Our field trips themselves follow a rhythm. Every Wednesday we go on a field trip, but the first Wednesday of each month, we always go on a field trip with me. I'll take you somewhere in the natural world. We talked about the weekly rhythm of story time and how we get to hear the story aloud and then we get to see a puppet show. Well, the stories are also part of a monthly rhythm. The first week of the month, we hear Grandpa Ivy's story. The second week of the month, we hear a pedagogical story or a teaching tale. And the third and fourth week of the month, we hear nature tales or folk tales. I mentioned our Tuesday craft visits with Miss Ray. These happen twice a month during the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. You will always find them these weeks, and you'll come to expect them. I hope that gives you a better idea of how all of these rhythms tie together.